New information on that train derailment in East Palestine. The EPA has identified 3 more chemicals that were on the Norfolk Southern train that derailed just over a week ago. One is a carcinogen that can cause burning and irritation to the skin and eyes. Another chemical can cause dizziness and drowsiness. A hazardous materials specialist says it's possible some of these chemicals could be in the homes and objects around the city.
We basically nuked a town with chemicals so we could get a railroad open. I was kind of surprised that when they quickly told the people they can go back home, but then said if they feel like they want their homes tested, they can have them tested. I would have far rather they did all the testing.
The East Palestine Water and Wastewater Department says it will continue testing the water this week.